What's going on, everybody, and welcome to this sunny edition of the JERRY1 Podcast. This is episode number 22. This is a weird episode, but first, let me tell you, I'm the host, Matt Felice. Welcome on in, episode 22. So this is a 2-day episode, and this is a first. Today is Thursday, March 11th, 2021, Corona Day. And you're watching this on March 11th, 2021. Yes, this is airing this evening at 6 o'clock. I'm recording this on the morning. It's 10:09 a.m. here on the East Coast. So I'm recording this 8 hours prior to the episode. But we did have a conversation with my guest today last night. So we're going to get to that later in the show. But it's episode 22. What do we got to talk about? It's kind of a slower week because basketball is still in week 11. It is back now. We are back after the All-Star break, and it's the final push. 53 days remain until we will crown a champion in hockey and basketball. But yeah, so it's a big show. We're going to talk about hockey. What's still going on? We're going to talk about that. We're going to recap that. Recap week 8, preview week 9. We got week 9, week 10 in hockey. We got week 11, week 12 in basketball. And then it's the playoffs. We've already had 5 playoff berths clinched, 3 in basketball and 2 in hockey. Paul and Justin Kieffer in. I stated last podcast that Kyle, Blake, and Larry are all in basketball. So it's a sunny edition. It's beautiful out. It is March 11th, and it's nice out. So I got the window open. I got the sun blaring. And, yeah, we got a big show. But who's our guest today? Our guest on the podcast today is my cousin, Justin Kieffer, back on the podcast for a second time. He's in his first year in fantasy basketball, and he's in his second year in hockey. He's got a really good hockey team. He's got a chance to be the number 1 seed if he beat Paul this week. So, yeah, Justin Kieffer is on the show. We're going to talk to Justin. I talked to him last night. I'll show you that clip of our conversation from last night in this podcast for today. But today, I'm going to talk about fantasy hockey. Then we show the interview conversation with Justin Kieffer. And then we'll talk about basketball. And we'll even talk about JERRY1's ESPN Tournament Challenge at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good one. Episode 22 is underway. And, yeah, let's get it going. Episode 22 of the JERRY1 Podcast starts now. Justin's going to come on in a second as the sun continues to glare here in my room. But let's talk about fantasy hockey to get you ready for this conversation with Justin. Talk about fantasy basketball later in the show because it's still week 11. Not going to touch on too much, but I will touch on the ESPN tournament chance, so stay tuned for that. But fantasy hockey, let's pull up the standings. Justin Kieffer still number one seed. He bounced back with a nice win over Q. Q lost a couple in a row. He's looked like he was going to be in the playoff conversation. Still in the conversation, but he's going to need to have a good couple weeks here. And same with me, 3 in a row. I'm 0-5, trying to be like Paul Russo in 2020 fantasy football, trying to make the playoffs as an 0-5 team. That would be pretty impressive for me to do it in a 10-week regular season. I got a lot of work to do. I'm losing to Nate pretty good right now. Q's got a big must-win game against Jack, so we'll see how both of us fare. Matt gets the big win over Nate. Nate's had 3 straight unlucky weeks in this league. He does get Amari Panarin. He's probably laughing because I can't pronounce his name. New York Rangers forward. He does get him back, so that's a huge piece. That's his first-round draft pick. So we will see how Nate's team does. We mentioned we talked to Q last week on the podcast, and he said he thought about going to the strategy of no goalies. Well, he's gone to that strategy. He's now the third owner to go to that strategy. We're going to talk to Justin about that because Justin is one of those 3 teams. Nate, he had the 2 shutouts on the first night with his 2 goalies who he drafted late in the last 2 picks in the draft. But then he caught him the next day, and he's gone with that strategy the whole season. We saw him do it last year, at the end of last year. A couple weeks back, we saw Justin Kieffer do this strategy, and we saw Q do it this week. And going with no goalies, because goalies in hockey, we don't know, they're the only ones that get minuses. We're going to try to fix that. We talk to Justin about that. But, Matt gets the big win, though, regardless of the strategy that Nate was doing. And Matt's, trying to make the playoffs for the first time in his career in this league. While, Paul and Justin Kieffer are both in. They both clinched their playoff berth. Paul's won 6 in a row. Very impressive after his 0-2 start. Justin Kieffer, he's won 7 of his first 8 games in this league. He can't beat Josh. Some reason can't beat Josh. But Josh, right there, hanging on that final playoff spot. That's the 4 seed. You want to try to get a top 3, get that bye from the playing game there. Nate's got it right now. I like to think Nate can still hang on. He's beating me right now. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tight race. You got a huge Matt-Josh matchup. Josh has got just a 2-point lead, 38-36 on this Thursday morning. And then, of course, the hugest game of, not for playoff implications, but Paul's got a 3-point lead, 58-55. You'll see in the conversation we're talking about that matchup when it was going live last night. So you'll see that in the conversation. Paul's got the 3-point lead over Justin Kieffer. This is Justin Kieffer can lock up the number 1 seed with a win this week, while Paul can be the number 1 seed going into the final week of the regular season next week. So 1 seed's on the line. It's not a huge deal. Paul still hasn't clinched a bye, but if he wins this week, he clinches a bye. It's not a huge deal to get the 1 seed. Yeah, you get to wait the winner of the playing game, get the easier teams. But, this league's tight like the basketball league, so I wouldn't say it's a huge deal. But, it's something, you'll always remember. You were the regular season champ. Yeah, you can be the regular season runner-up. But being a regular season champ is definitely remembered. We've had 21 completed seasons in JERRY1 Fantasy Sports. Those 21 regular season champions, always remembered. I'll always remember the first ever season, 2011 Fantasy Football. Right here was your regular season champ. I'll always remember that. We were 1 and done, losing to Pat in the semis, who went on to win the first champ. There's a history lesson for you. But this hockey league's tight. No trades. There was no trades in the trade deadline. You'll see in the conversation with Justin that we talked about, he didn't like my predictions, picking Nate as the favorite in my JERRY1 update a couple weeks back. But, I don't know how I can go wrong with this Justin Kieffer team or Paul. I think they are now the favorites in my mind on this Thursday morning. Nate, though, it's different for him this year. He's lost 4 times, 4-4. He's a 500 team. It's a guy that was 17-2 last year's regular season. So it hasn't been a lot of losing, but a lot of losing lately for this Nate team in unlucky fashion. So we'll see how it does. I think the biggest storylines is who's going to be the 1 seed. Is it going to be Paul? Or is it going to be Justin? What will this Nate team look like going in the playoffs? Because I think he's going to make it. Will Matt make the playoffs? And will there be a run between me and Q? Not talking about Jack. Jack done. Don't care about that. Sorry, Jack. But and then there's Josh. Josh hasn't made the playoffs in 2 years as well. We'll see if he can make it. And of course, I've won 3 in a row after an 0-5 start. 3-5 right there. But I got a huge game against Nate, and it's not going my way right now. That's fantasy hockey, week 9, final week of the regular season next week, just like basketball. It's going to be 6 weeks of playoffs, 1 play-in game, and the semis, and then the championship, the finals. So we'll see how it plays out. Huge games. I think Matt and Josh is huge, and then Paul and Justin Kieffer's huge. And then Nate just to get some confidence. And Q needs to win. He's only up 5 over Jack right now. He needs to win. If Q don't beat Jack, it's over. It is over. But that's fantasy hockey. You're all caught up. Week 9 is underway. Weekend coming up. Going to be a huge weekend. We'll see what happens. So that's fantasy hockey. Now here's that conversation I've been talking about so far on the pod. That conversation with Justin Kieffer that I had last night. Here is that conversation with Justin. Today's guest on the podcast, he's making his second appearance on the pod. It is my cousin. He is in his 3rd overall. He's played 3 seasons now. He's in his 2nd and 3rd seasons in JERRY1 fantasy sports and basketball and hockey. My cousin, Justin Kieffer. Justin, how's it going?
Hey, Nick, how's it going? Late night, we're putting the kids to bed and everything, but it's been a good time. So excited to be here again. I know we enjoyed talking hockey a lot last time. So excited to kind of talk some other stuff as well.
Yeah. Weather's looking bright up here in Seneca Falls, New York. How's it in Hummelstown, PA?
It has been what we would call beautiful lacrosse weather here these past 2 days. So we'll see if it sticks around for the weekend or not, or if we're going to go back to the normal spring. But I am a cold weather guy, so it doesn't bother me to have that kind of feeling. So I wouldn't mind some just sunlight with cold weather. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, there you go. We think we would start with the basketball league, your first season in that, but we have to start talking about your fantasy hockey team. You got to remember, it was your first year last year. You were in the semifinals. You're only 3 points down from what seemed to be an unbeatable Nate team. You had it. The season got cut short. This year, you come on strong. You won your first 6 games. It's only a 10-week shortened regular season, but 6-0. You're 7-1. You had that 1 loss to some reason. You keep losing to my friend Josh Langley. He's not that great, but some reason he's got your number right now in JERRY1 overall. And so yes, his team's 7-1, first place. Only 2 more weeks left. You got a huge game against Paul. You could lock up the number 1 seed. You've already gotten a playoff berth. You've already gotten a bye. And now you can lock up the number 1 seed against a very good Paul team that's won 6 in a row. Justin, what are your thoughts on your hockey team so far?
I feel pretty good just because of just some of the guys I have. I have some really good talented guys, especially when you come to Bergeron. I've got Backstrom again. Again, when it comes to the drafts, I think there's a lot of guys that go pretty quickly just because they're the new hot name or the young guys. And if we were to be doing a league that we call, franchising, then maybe it'd be a little different. But, I like to try to stick with my staples, the guys that I know they're going to produce, especially when it comes to power play points, especially guys that are going to be consistent throughout the season. And with it being a shortened season, it's going to be just a murderer's row against these goalies. You're going to see a lot of guys getting goals scored, especially when it came to the East in Canada. I think that those divisions were really going to pump in a lot of points. And then you also look at the West. I think that there are going to be a lot of guys to get some consistency there. So you'll see my team has a decent amount of guys from LA. They've always been really, really strong. Drew Doughty tonight's already got himself a power play point. I kind of knew they were going to get some help there. So I've been feeling pretty good. I was happy to get some guys like I don't know how it works so easily to get both Ovechkin and Crosby on the same team, but I'll keep my comments to myself about other people and their drafting strategies. But that didn't happen back in my early days of doing fantasy hockey. But hey, I'll take two of the best scorers of all time on my team whenever I can. So
Yeah, you had that long layoff from playing fantasy hockey. Now you come back, second year. And I remember you texted me after draft that night, and you really loved your team. You were in love with your team there, and you went forward heavy like a lot of people do. And yeah, you had was it Ovechkin fourth overall. You had Crosby, then you went Tavares. You just were loading up on big names, and it's panned out so far, 7-1. You wish you were? Did you think you'd be this good, 7-1?
I'll use my a good little talk. A win is a win. And then when it also comes to I just got to worry about winning the next one and winning the last one. That's all that really matters. I wasn't really worried about going undefeated. You don't want to set those type of goals. It's not really a priority of mine. As you know from my the way that I like to talk my trash is I like to bring the reckoning behind me. So I like people to know about setting some wins, and especially again, I have no problem being the person that kind of stands up for the older guys and comes in with all the Hall of Fame guys instead of just worrying about the big new names that are scoring goals left and right or here. Like I want guys that are consistent for an entire season. So I would say that the biggest drawback I've had so far has just been some of these COVID issues, but that's every team. So I've had a couple guys have to stay out for that, and there's no getting around that. So
Yeah, I like that because your brother-in-law Kyle Murphy was on the pod not that long ago, and he was undefeated in basketball, so it's the same kind of deal with the both of you, and you both look at it the same way. Yeah, undefeated would have been nice, but you two are in the JERRY1 world. You are still championshipless, you two. So, the goal at the beginning of the season is to win that first championship, and then after a few seasons there, maybe an undefeated season will pop up. Maybe just have a dream team. But I like that you guys should take a championship first. Don't be too greedy going for it all. But
well, my goal is to be able to come to family events and be able to talk the trash to the people that I see at those events before I worry about winning championships. So I think the wins against those family members and those people are a little more important at first, and then we move on to the big games.
yeah, I think if you're Jack DeRue, I think he should be hiding for a little bit right now with basketball hockey's combined record being 2-16 right now. I think Jack, we're not going to see much of him lately, but you know, you
Don't
gotta
don't
set.
let him, don't let him fool you. He's probably cooking something up.
Yeah, just start setting your lineup a little bit more. It's all Jack needs to start doing. But I mentioned it earlier. Paul 6-2. He's won 6 in a row. He's the inaugural champion in this hockey league. He's won 5 championships overall in JERRY1 Fantasy Sports way before you started your career here. What is the mindset going in this game against Paul, who you already beat this season earlier?
Um, well, my big thing. I mean, he's got Draisaitl, he's got Pastrnak. He took my boy Kane. I was painful not to get him because he's a staple of my roster from years and years. But I'm worried about just kind of making sure my guys get theirs. I'm not really worried about anything else. And if anything, again, I'm about earning what I should have had last year. I wholeheartedly believe I should have had the championship last year, and I will stick to that. So I'm just going to keep moving forward and trying to get myself to that same spot. And like I said, win the next one and then win the last one. That's all that matters.
Yeah, so in this hockey playoff, which it was the same thing as last year, 5 teams make it, 3 buys, and the 2 teams play in a playing round. Do you care if you're the 1 seed, or you just obviously you've already locked up the top 3 buy? Do you care if you're the 1 seed?
Doesn't really matter. It's a 2-week. When you actually play someone, it's 2 weeks instead of a single week. So again, with the COVID, it actually helps you out in that sense, because what might happen is if, say, I lose all the capitals for that 1 week of my bye, I might lose them for that second week of the first week of an actual matchup, but then I get them for that second week of the matchup. And what might happen is they might explode because they're fully rested and they have a chance to gun after them. So None of that really matters to me. Again, it's about the whole thing. And I think also with this new little strategy everybody's taking with no goalies, which we'll get to, I'm sure, at some point in discussion. But when you take out the goalies, that doesn't matter as much. You can have guys with many acquisitions and get those teams and get those guys in there. But with the goalies not getting a certain amount of plays, if you had to have goalies and had to have those games, you may be a little more limited. So it's a little bit different of a strategy there. I think you can be able to just pump in a lot of guys and get a lot of points, and you just kind of hope that they can get some good ones on there, especially when you get into the the thick of things, when they start getting into the heavy part of their own season. So
Yeah, let's talk about it right now. Let's get your thoughts on that goalie. So Nate started this last year sitting as goalies or just cutting them in general. Then he drafted his goalies last two picks of his draft. He played them the first night, got him 2 shutouts, which is the best you can do, which is 8 points each. He got 16 points out of his goalies the first night, but didn't stick with his goalies, cut them, and he's been playing without goalies this entire season. You, a couple weeks ago, made the move to no goalies. And then I talked to my friend Q on the pod last week, and now he has made his move to no goalies, which is 3 teams now playing without goalies. And if you don't know fantasy hockey, if you're watching this, fantasy goalies right now with our scoring system is the only one that gets minuses. So, and if you don't win the game, you don't get any points. You most likely get minuses because of goals given up. What was your decision in going with this strategy, being the second owner to do this strategy a few weeks back?
Well, I will totally put myself on the spot and say I remember having a direct conversation with you saying, "What's the rule on having goalies on?" I thought I was under the impression that we actually had a certain amount of starts in a week, and when you said nope, there's actually nothing about that, and so if there's no requirements for it, why put myself in a situation to get negative points? So, and if my opponent at the time, which was Nate, during that week, because I'm the one I want to make sure that I'm not getting cheated on. If he's going to do it, hey, let's go tit for tat. So I was all about it. Now I will say that once we get into the postseason time and we start talking about any changes or updates, I will be the first one to throw my hat and say that we need to have a requirement of goalies on your roster or something of that nature, because now the negative points that can turn people some way, but I think that we should have the goalies a part of this. Otherwise, it kind of takes away the whole aspect of it. But look, I want to win, so it's kind of is what it is. So I want to do whatever I got to do to make sure that happens. So if I have to do that by pulling a little cheapo trick, is what it is. I'll move on. So next time it's not a big deal.
One thing I'll say about that is nothing official, but I am going to do something with this scoring system. I'm going to raise it up. Your category proposal wasn't hit, with the voting league vote, but
yeah, that's because everybody's worrying about scoring points and everything. You want to have goalies involved and keep them involved. You do the categories. That's where it matters. That's when you block shots, you get takeaways, face-off wins. Like I said, everybody wants pretty goals scored and all that. You want to get blue collar stats and everything, you put it in the categories, or you put it in the points per block shot, points per hit, and everything.
One category that I will probably put in next year, not as a category, but as a point option, is plus or minus. That is huge in hockey. We got to do something about that. Because we got to do with some of the forwards and defenders. They got to get minuses somehow. Goalies points got to go up. Something I just off the top of my head, just something like like get a point every 5 saves, and then you can still get minuses with goals given up. But the scoring's got to go up. I think it's probably like 200 to 300 points a week, and that's what you see in like fantasy baseball, basketball. You've known is like 600, 700, sometimes even up to 800, 900 points. But scoring's got to go up. These goalies, it's like sitting goalies is like sitting your kicker in fantasy football. So, we're going to try to get these goalies back in the lineups. Probably not going to be doing anything for the postseason this year, but things will change with this league.
Well, I can tell you from another league that I'm in, they actually do, they also do decimal points, but they actually have the first time I've ever seen bonus points. If you get a hat trick, you get a plus 15.
15.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
What are the averages of scoring in that? Like, what's a typical score every week?
Same as ours,
Oh,
actually.
really?
So when
Like,
you get that, because they play minuses, but when they do is the decimal points are more of the block shots and the hits and the face-off wins. Everything else is plus. It's a point for power play point. 1+1 for an assist, +2 for a goal. But if you're getting 3 goals, you get 6 points, plus 15 for the bonus. So it's just like a big wow. So again, everybody's worried about the scoring points, which is what it is. And I think this year as the COVID hits, they everybody wants to score 1,000 goals of the year. I just think that if you want to play the way I've always played, and I think it's the right way, is the categories, and because I think that's what the plus minus of your team can really dictate a lot as well. It's not just, and also your goalies, because you have the 4 categories that are strictly all goalies with wins, goals allowed, average save percentage, and shutouts. So if you don't have any goalies, you're going to get straight zeros right there. And that's 4 points to the other person, which almost is half of your weekly score. So instead of the hundreds of points, you have maybe 10 to 12 total points, or 9 to 11 to make it odd. So you know that someone has to win, someone has to lose, and it just evens itself out a little bit there. And so instead of you worrying about scoring tons of goals, it's all right, my team may not get as many goals, but I'm going to kill this team in penalty minutes. So I know I'm going to at least get a +1 in that column, but that's neither here nor there. That's for next year.
yeah, we are. And that's what I talked about with Q last week. It's like the scoring system set for the season. So whatever we got this year, that's what we're going to play with. And then we'll see who comes out on top at the end. But, another thing is like I might do like minus a point for penalties too. Like the forwards got to be affected somehow too, and the defenders. So we'll see what we'll do there.
Well, can't make penalties negative. That's kind of hockey, because some of those penalties are for defending their teammate and getting into a fight. So that's kind of a positive. That's why penalty minutes has its own category of being up a little bit higher. Penalty minutes is that's what everybody wants the hockey rule to get away from, is the physicality and the hitting and all that. But hey, I'm a firm believer of make hockey violent again. So
and big hockey news today on this Wednesday night. ESPN and the NHL agreeing to a deal. What do you think of that?
After I just paid for my NHL package for this entire year, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to have those games back on and not have to worry about paying for something like that separately, and being able to have my ESPN Plus and to pay for that instead. So I'm good with it. I just want to be able to watch my Washington Capitals games as a little more consistent than having to watch every Flyers game in the world. And then depending on what, how they look and everything, I know that people think that the Caps are on TV a lot as it is, but it would be nice to not have to watch every Red Wings game in the world just because of that. I don't want to watch every Rangers game in the world either. I want to watch Washington Capitals.
There you go. Before we start talking about basketball, one last thing on hockey. I got to get your thoughts on Matt. He got a big win last week against Nate. Matt's been in this league since the very beginning, which is 4 seasons now. You've made the playoffs. Even Jack's made the playoffs, but Matt has still never made the playoffs in this hockey league. He's the 4th seed right now. Do you think he's going to make it?
I mean, to be totally honest with you, I'm worried about the people in front of me, knocking them down. So right now, I'm worried about taking down Paul and his spray tan of a team. So I just want to make sure that we take care of that squad. But if Matt can make it, great. It makes the Hanlon family look great. Makes all the rest of the people look bad. But no, I'm worried about as I keep saying with my Tombstone references, I'm worried about bringing the reckoning. And setting a tone. There's something that we're missing because of this dumb COVID, and I want it. So I've pretty much been worried about my guys for this whole time, but I do like to see some of the guys who are usually the quote top dogs go down because of other guys getting quote lucky wins. So when Nate wants to have my luck run out, he can come talk to me about that. But right now I'm worried about knocking down Paul right now for that number 1 spot. So
there you go.
I think Nate needs to worry about staying in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is an 18. He had won 17 of his 19 games last year. It's, wheels are falling off a little bit. He's trying to find a playoff spot still. He's got to clinch it still.
Yeah, you got to, it's, they'll stick to the process. And once you start pointing fingers at X, Y, and Z or blaming other people, then you've lost your team. You got to worry about your team and no one else.
There you go. So now the big week. Yeah, it's a big week against Paul in hockey, but this is the big week over in the basketball league this week. Your basketball team, it's been pretty inconsistent, but your first year ever playing fantasy basketball?
I did a fantasy basketball 1 year, like in Yahoo and like in a public league, and I got like third. I'm pretty sure I set my lineup once, but I also had like Kobe Bryant, so I was able to cruise pretty easily without having to do much.
Yeah, and that sounds like it was good Kobe, so that had to have been a while ago. So
I'm talking like 2005, 2006, maybe
yeah,
2008 at the latest.
but you're back. There's only 2 weeks left in the basketball. We just had the All-Star break. We got like a week and a half, 2 matchups left. But your team's 4-6. It's been pretty inconsistent for your team. Not. I'm just talking about your team. I know my team's been inconsistent as well, but you do have some quality wins. You beat my friend Larry. Larry's the number 1 seed currently. You beat Paul. Paul's a former champion. He's trying to fight for the playoffs. But you have losses against me who have not been good, and you lost to that's pesky Josh once again, who's got his 1 win of the season was against you. This team's been inconsistent, but you were given the very first pick in the draft this year. People thought you might have gone with the Greek Freak, but you surprised us some, and you went with Luka Doncic, very great player. 1 or 2, he can't go wrong. And I think he's had a better season than the Greek Freak this year. And just talk about your team. What are your thoughts on this 4-16 fighting, still technically alive for a playoff spot?
Still technically alive. I went with Luka. I went and used my sources, made a few phone calls to some of my basketball background, except for my loving brother-in-law, because I knew he would give me the wrong answer. So the biggest thing that took me back was Luka is a walking triple-double. And so I knew kind of going into that it was going to be either him or the Greek Freak. It was either one of them. I was not going to go a bandwagoner on NBA guy and go with LeBron. I was between Luka and the Greek. I felt good about Luka, and I still do feel very good about Luka. And I do not regret my decision whatsoever there. The only thing that's kind of hurt me now is that there was that whole winter storm that happened in Dallas and everything or in Texas really. And it really hurt my schedule. There was a couple games where I was just getting canceled games, nothing with COVID. It was just weather. So that hurt me. That hurt me in a little bit of a stretch there. But I've been feeling good about him. Bam. I've been really feeling good about him. I'm excited for that. I was able to get his name. Steven Adams, I like that. I like him because he is a physical threat. I knew that he was going to get some good points in the paint. He's going to be consistent. He's a big guy. He's not going to be too much of a stretch shooter, so I knew I wasn't going to have to worry too much about getting some negative points there. Serge Ibaka, I knew I was going to be getting some good paint points, good rebounds out of him. I took a little bit of a gamble on Rui. As a Maryland guy, I knew what he was going. He was in DC, and he was a very good player at Gonzaga. So I kind of felt like if he's a youth name I knew, and I could try to see if I can build around him. But then, of course, I think this is like his second year in a row where he starts the season out with like a pink eye. So a little concerned there. So I kind of didn't have him at my disposal at the beginning of it. And then I've been just kind of making some moves here at the beginning. I did have Rudy Gobert. So I knew, again, getting some paint points, but I needed to get guys in the forward and in the shooting guard position. So I was trying to get my feet wet and trying to find the right guys. I did get Fred Van Vliet. That was good. And I think he was a good pickup for me. Another guy that can give me a little bit of flex to the point guard, shooting guard. That was kind of my big my strategy when it came to the drafting. I may not know a ton about basketball, but when it comes to the fantasy aspect, I was trying to get as many guys, as flex options as possible. So when you have to make those day-to-day changes and everything, instead of having one guy be strictly center like a Steven Adams, if we can get someone that's like a Jay Crowder, who's a power forward and a shooting forward, it kind of gives you a little more flexibility in terms of getting guys on your roster to get points out of them. Or especially with the COVID, you got to have as many flex guys as you can, because someone might drop last second and it may be hard for you to get an addition. So I think that's been kind of my big strategy, and kind of learn a little bit here and there. I watched a little bit of games. It's no offense to my family members, but it's hard for me to watch a full NBA game. It just doesn't really grasp me as much as I would if I were watching a college game. I would rather watch a college game, but having a little bit of a background, just kind of knowing a couple names, but some of these guys I've never heard of. But then obviously, my in the household, when I'm hearing everything about Cleveland, you hear some names. So you hear some of those guys, whether they're on Cleveland before or they're on Cleveland, playing against Cleveland at the time. So I feel good. I'm not like completely embarrassing myself. Again, like you're saying, I've had some inconsistencies where I'm like up on a team by 50 and then all of a sudden I get blown up by 150. So it's just, it is what it is. I can't really, can't blame anybody. It's just kind of how it is. And again, there's just been some times where my best player is out for a week because of snow. Like you don't see that more very often. So I haven't really had any where I haven't had a lot of zeros or anything like that. It's just been it's getting guys that are actually healthy. And with this COVID situation, I got 2 guys on the COVID part of it aspect. And, if I can get them back and get some points out of them before, there's not a lot of roster spots. And I don't really want to give up some good guys just to be able to fill a roster spot with someone who might blow up one day and then give me zeros across the board for the next 2 weeks. So I'm trying to be as loyal as I can to the guys I have.
Yeah, I did look up. Luka is scoring less than the Greek Freak right now, but for most of the season, Luka was up there, so you can't go wrong with Luka.
If you take pretty much an entire week away from Luka of games, which that could be between 2 and 4, that's why. I mean, during that whole like snow ice storm that was happening in Texas had nothing to do at all with COVID by anything, so they were getting canceled, but the Greek Freak was still playing. So Luka and him have been back and forth 1 and 2 the entire time.
Yeah, but I've said on this podcast multiple times that this basketball league is probably the tightest league, the most tough league I have seen in JERRY1 Fantasy Sports. There's a lot of good teams in this league, and it's your first year in playing fantasy basketball, a long time. So 4-6 is not terrible. You could have got a couple wins there with me and Josh. If you get those wins turned around, and you're a 6-14, you're thinking playoffs, and it's a tough league, and it's a tough matchup that you have here in week 11 of 12. You're playing your old brother-in-law, Kyle Murphy, 8-2. Kyle is 8-2. That's how tough it is. He's 8-2, and he's the 3 seed right now because the tiebreaker's not going his way. Right now, it wasn't a great showing by your team. I mean, you're scoring well, but Kyle's just going absolutely off. So it's not looking good for you this week. This is a two-week week 11. He's taken a huge lead going into the All-Star break, but now we come back. Huge matchup. You've been waiting for this one. I know it's not going your way so far. What are your thoughts on this matchup against Kyle right now?
Well, as you and I have talked about, and I don't know if I've mentioned it to my wife, but I haven't cared about any other game this entire year. I could go over, but all I want to do is get that little Giants. I just wanted that one win, and that was against Kyle. Just so I could have something to be able to talk with him about when it comes to family gatherings. When we play normal pickup or play horse and all that, I am left in the dust. I am not a basketball player, and but no, I wanted to be able to compete a little bit with him. So again, my mentality has always been, win the next one, and then always win the last one. But when it came to sleep, I just wanted to have one win, and that was against Kyle. So it's not looking very good. Totally understandable with that, but if I can keep myself in at least in some sort of playoff picture, that would be pretty happy for me. But again, as you said, this is my first time really being in a serious league when it comes to fantasy basketball. So I'm just glad to be able to at least get into it, especially when you kind of called me like 2 days prior. It was just, definitely, let's go. I don't care if I barely know anything about NBA, but I at least can put into it. And as for, against going against Kyle, when it comes to basketball in general, this is his sport. Whereas, we talk about fantasy hockey, that is my sport. That's so, Kyle just knows a lot. He's very intelligent, very, knows his stuff about that. And his strategy of being able to add drop guys throughout the week and to be really on top of that is really key for him. Something I'm not as good at because I don't know as much names about it, but I think that it also hurts everybody else because Kyle knows such a flow of the season, such a flow of the league that he's able to make those ad drops before anybody else really wants to. So you kind of lose out. And that's why I kind of talk about my loyalty with my thing. So I'm not much of an ad drop guy as much as he is, but he's ad drop guys that are just, he knows kind of the right matchups, the right teams that are having an up and down year that he knows like, okay, I'm going to add this guy because he's probably going to drop at least 12 on this team tonight, but then I'm going to drop him right after that because I'm going to get another guy who's going to drop 20 on another team the following day. So he's got a really good pulse on that kind of action when it's happening, the transactions. So you just kind of have to hope that when you go into these games against him, that you're just you're hoping you can just get a good matchup against that. And when it comes to saying, oh yeah, he's quote the 3 seed. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty scary 3 seed. So let's all be honest. It's Kyle's to lose. So when we're making our JERRY1 predictions, and we like to throw out other people's names saying, oh, this is my person and this is my sleeper, especially, well, we didn't talk about your hockey picks, so we'll talk about that later. But I think we're all pretty know one thing when it comes to fantasy basketball, it's Kyle's to lose and everyone else is trying to chase him. So even if he gets in the 4 seed, even if he's the last seed in the playoffs, it's Kyle's to lose. I think we should all be pretty honest about that. So
Yeah,
because again, if there's one thing that Kyle does love, it's the NBA.
Yeah, he's good, and it sucks because this was a huge golden opportunity. Because week 12, let's face it, Justin, you're gonna win 5 games. Week 12 against Jack, that's one we could put in the win column already.
You never, with this COVID and this weather, I guess now the weather, I didn't know weather had an effect on NBA. And I will wholeheartedly publicly say, because Kyle's heard me say it, you never know who's going to take a rest day. So you never know. If I would say, think if you have a game, you're going to play the game, but I didn't think rest and weather would be an effective for an indoor sport like basketball. So we'll see.
Well, you will if things look like they're not going to go your way against Kyle. You do have to keep scoreboard watching. Right now, if Bosey Bombers, Justin Hill, the other Justin, if he loses and if Paul loses to Josh, well, Justin, you will be in contention still for another week with a game against Jack in the last week. So keep an eye out on the scoreboards. You'll still be around. You got some points. I think it's going to come down to a points tiebreaker, which would be a huge. It would be a huge tiebreaker. It would be a lot of teams tied, but
whatever I can do to beat Paul, that's fine with me.
Yeah, Paul. We'll see what happens, but are you enjoying it? You enjoying fantasy basketball for this year?
Yeah, again, like I said, it's for marrying into a complete basketball family where no one wants to talk about ice hockey or lacrosse at all. Whatever I can do to try to get some sort of conversational piece, which we both know when I said, yes, I want to play fantasy basketball just so I can actually have more to talk about with my family. So it's definitely allowed me to kind of get just broaden my horizons a little bit and see if I can learn more about the sport and everything. So again, there's some parts of the NBA that I just don't comprehend and it goes over my head. Again, I'll use the word rest day when you're a professional athlete, but what do I know? So, but it's been good. I enjoyed it, especially when I get to interact, especially with the JERRY1 crowd. Those guys, especially some of these people that make some horrific trade offers that make no sense at 3 a.m. I think we need to put some mute buttons on some of these guys.
Yeah, there's some characters out there.
But also, I'd like to add when it comes to that, these are also guys who none of them have kids, so they're not. The rest of us are asleep at 3 o'clock, but they're up at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, there's only a few people in JERRY1. It's a young crowd, JERRY1. Just a bunch of young kids right now. We're all growing up, but it's gonna take years after years. You're gonna know this game a lot better. I think think about 5-6 years from now, fantasy basketball. Who knows? Maybe you'll be a champion someday in this league. But you mentioned before we move on, you mentioned you never made a trade ever, right? In fantasy ever. And you didn't do it this year in hockey. There was nothing in hockey, a few trades in basketball. Do you think there will ever be a Justin Kieffer trade? Breaking news.
If it were to happen, it would happen in hockey. But I also I'm loyal to my team. That's kind of how that's kind of me as a personality in general. I'm a loyal person. So if I'm going to draft someone, I'm not just closing my eyes and pressing a button. I'm drafting you for a reason. I'm drafting you because I think you can actually make some play there, and that's my strategy. So I kind of look at it like that. So it's when it comes to the trading in, say, like a sport like fantasy basketball, and I don't know enough about something, someone could be completely, taking me for granted. So I'd rather not put myself in that situation. Say, nope, I'm good. I don't know who that person is. I don't know if that person's any good. I don't know if they could be on the Clippers, and for all you know, the Clippers are horrible or amazing that season. I got no idea because I don't pay attention to it. Whereas I know if I'm at least with hockey, I can tell you, well, I got these couple guys, they're trying to trade me someone from the Kings or someone from Dallas or someone from Chicago. I at least have a pulse of what's going on in the league. I say like, okay, he's probably an up and comer guy, or you take it, it's maybe you're trying to throw someone out there like your boy Laffy Taffy, who you take a gamble on at the beginning and say, nope, rookie's not ready for it. And they're like, oh yeah, this is the big time rookie. And it's like, he hasn't produced. So
yeah, just think about my first round draft pick. He's the worst player on my team. Mika Zibanejad. He's my worst player on my team.
So I'll be fully admitted here. As a joke, I was going to offer a trade for your boy Lafreniere. I was going to trade him to you and say, make me an offer for just one for one, just to say I've done a trade and be able to let you have your guy. But I also felt like I'd be, stealing from you by doing that. So I was like, nope, I'm just going to drop him if he wants him to go for it. But
honestly, right now, for Lafreniere, I would give you Cabo Caco.
Yeah, so you're pretty much trading 3 points for 3 points. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. But Justin, it's that time. Anybody who comes on my show always plays my game, and if you come on for a second time, you play my new game called JERRY1 True or False. So I know you struggled last time on the game, but this time only 2 answers here. So
we all can't have a beautiful mind like Kyle, where you're pretty much getting every single point possible and just barely like, oh, I think it's this, and it's like perfect answer. So
yeah, he got the perfect score. But
course,
I will say, Q, if you didn't see that episode, Q did tie your worst score, 55 points. You're not alone in that game, but this is a new game.
Q's pretty good at those worst scores, so it kind of sticks with his personality.
Well, here's the good news. The top score is 840 points. To crack the top 5, all you need is 0. So you basically are going to crack the top 5, regardless of what happens here today. But
no pressure.
Here's how it works. JERRY1 True or False. 5 questions once again, from easier to harder. Or I should say 5 statements, and you say, is it true or false? You start with 100 points. I will first tell you the statement about your teams.
Okay.
Then you will say how much you want to wager on the confidence that you are with your answer. And then you say true or false. So you start with 100 points. So if you keep wagering at all, the most you can win is 3,200 points, but the top score is only 840. Be careful, though. If you go down to 0, the next statement will be worth only 1 point. So wager wisely. Justin, are you ready to play?
Now I want to make sure this is for both fantasy basketball and fantasy hockey, or just one.
It's about all your teams. So basketball and hockey. You only have 3 teams, so it's a little easier than say like Paul, who has 20-something teams, and I could go for questions for hours on them.
Well, I don't feel bad for Paul, so
yeah. All right, here we go. You have 100 points to start. First statement. Do not overthink these first ones. Fantasy basketball. You have won a game in fantasy basketball. True or false?
I have won a game.
One game.
Can I bet 100 points?
Okay.
Something in my gut. Can I phone a friend?
Nope, no friends.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna say I have won a game.
And that is correct. Yes, you have won a game. You were up to 200 points. Congratulations. You were moving on with a perfect score. You got it right. Yes, Kyle, you got it right.
What do I do with my hands now? Like,
See?
wow.
It's
This,
it's only
this
it's only the first statement. We got 4 more statements to
my
go.
hands are tingling with just excitement right now. I don't know what to do with them right now.
You got this. Let's go. Second statement. Second statement is hockey. This is hockey now. You have one career playoff win in fantasy hockey. True or false?
Oh, and now I can only do 100, or can I do all the points I have?
You can do as many. You can do 200. You can do as many as you want. You go up to 200.
200. Yes.
And that is correct. Yes. Yes. You have your one playoff win last year. You beat Jack in that playing game that did finish. What's funny about you and Kyle, you on the hockey side, Kyle on the basketball side, both undefeated in the playoffs, despite not winning a championship.
That's what our family brings to the table.
Yes.
Competition.
All right.
Competition breeds excellence.
All right. Here we go. Now it's getting real. This next statement is about both basketball and hockey.
Ooh.
You have never beaten me in JERRY1 Fantasy Sports. True or false?
I'd like to wager all of my hard doll hairs on yes, I have beaten you.
And that is correct. Yes. You have beaten me only once. 1-3, week 4 of this year's hockey season.
Hey, as the icebox would tell you, all it takes is that one time.
Yep. Here we go. You have 800 points. So you're only 40 points away from the top score. So let's see what you wager here. 2 statements ago. Starting to get harder now. Here we go. This next statement's on hockey, only hockey. Your lowest scoring regular season game in hockey is 75 points.
Lowest scoring? Now, is that between my two teams or between just this season?
This is both your hockey teams, both seasons.
Oh, God.
75. It is on those stats that I send out every week, you know?
Of course. Look at you like, oh, yeah, I sent it out just last week. Didn't you read it, Justin?
Here's where confidence comes in. You probably don't want to wager all 800.
Not all 800. You said lowest is 75.
Yep. Is that true or false?
You know what? Let's put 200 down. Let you get your little pad out.
Yep.
And I'm going to say that no, that is not my lowest score.
And I'm sorry, Justin, that is sadly incorrect. It is your lowest score week 4 last season in hockey against Jack. You lost that game.
I actually thought I had some little bit closer to that one time last year. So, all right, I'll take that. 75 points is my low score. Let's go.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. 75 points. So you don't get this one right. You are down to 600. Okay, so you would need to wager 2. You would need to wager 240 for the top score. So 241. Maybe that's just something wager you might do. But here we go. Final statement. This is both hockey and basketball, all seasons. Justin is 3-0 in week 1 games. First week of the season. Are you 3-0? True or false?
I don't know.
Well, here's it. Hockey, you did go, you were undefeated. So there's 1-0 there. But are you 3-0?
All right. I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit. Put it all down as in Yes, I am 3-0 in week one. Look at that big grin on your face saying you're like, oh, he's totally wrong.
So you're putting 600 down. Here we go. And the answer is true. And that is correct. Yes, Justin, you got it right. You are 3-0, 2-0 in week one in hockey, and 1-0 this year, beating Jack in week one this year. You're 3-0. You've started off 1-0 every single time.
So real quick, what was my final score there? What was that? What's the final score?
You have the top score right now, 1,200 points. That is the top score.
I'd like to shout out my top score to my mother-in-law Molly, because I'm patting myself on the back here. She knows fine well that it's always great to pat yourself on the back for a little bit there when you work so hard. So when it comes to our family gatherings and our family games and competitiveness, she pushes me and drives me to be the best there for that. So shout out to the Mary Molly Murphy.
Shout out Aunt Molly. So how about that? Both these games, Kyle's got the top score in the other league. In the other game, you have the top score in this game. How about that? The rivalry continues.
It's again, the family card games get pretty tough, pretty heated, especially when you have fast talking Uncle Jay. He you got to be ready for that.
Before I get you out of here, Justin, fantasy hockey, let's just say basketball, it's a learning experience year. But hockey, you're going to the playoffs. It is less than a month now until you start that run in the semifinals. All you need is 2 playoff wins to win it all. How you feeling about this team heading towards whoever you will play in the semis?
Fantasy hockey, I'm feeling pretty good, especially because it's this COVID season. It's a sprint. As we've kind of we've talked about on the outside with texting and all that. That when it comes to the when you're picking guys from certain divisions, they're all about scoring. So it's just a big sprint. That was kind of also a big reason why I didn't want to have any goaltenders on my team, just because you're gonna have such huge lopsided wins. Like perfect example, I'm playing against Paul this week, and Draisaitl was 3-2 tonight, and they were 7-1. They beat Ottawa 7-1. Like, you don't see that as often. And those scores you're seeing a lot more this year. So feeling pretty good there. I kind of need my capital guys to get a little bit more explosive. I think after the COVID issue and whatnot, an Ovechkin kind of guy, he's been kind of a little bit quiet. So I think, but I've been thankfully getting some extra points out of like a Lars Eller, Jacob Vrana. But I've been getting some good consistency out of the Sonk father himself when it comes to oh my gosh, I'm completely out of Yandel. I'm getting some Drew Doughties. So again, the guys that I draft and all that, I might be getting only an assist, but it's usually power play assist. If I'm getting a goal, it's 2 goals. So I think being able to get some consistent points has been pretty helpful with that. And so I'm excited. I think I have a really good chance of winning this next game, and then trying to just make it all the way to that last game. Obviously, it just depends. I think with this year with the COVID, this is an added variable about losing. You could lose 1 or 5 guys easily just for one little minor thing like that. So, feeling good about that. Just again, I'm here for the reckoning. So that's what it's all about this season. So I want teams to remember that. Here for that. I'm not making friends. I'm not worrying about the other people. I'm here for just knocking down the people in front of me.
Yeah, and I know I've been high on Paul and Nate, former champions in this hockey league.
Your picks. Yeah, that's why I sent you the one gift. The one is like, okay, just
prove me wrong.
Yeah, you do. Let's see. I think you did Nate as your pick and Q as your sleeper.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, let me just. Let's see. I'm gonna go to league. Where is that? Oh, schedule. Oh, Q. Oh, okay. Q. Let's see. I beat him. That was easy. Nate. I beat him as well. So okay. Just make sure I have that right. Just want to make sure I read that right and read that correctly. So
yeah, you read it correctly. You proved me wrong.
Yeah, you can tell Nate that hard work beats luck every time. So it's not all about that.
I love to hear it, but Justin, I wish the best of luck for you going forward. Maybe we'll get you on again if you do win that hockey championship. We'll talk about that. But I wish you the best of luck. Your first year of basketball, second year of hockey. I wish the best of luck for your teams, both your teams going forward the rest of this year. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, let's go Billy Hoyle. I hope that we can hope that the chump can show the foam slap how it's done.
Yeah, and tell the family I said hi.
Always.
It was good to talk to Justin. Good to have him on. Thank you, Justin, for coming on. I wish the best of luck for your hockey team. You're going to the playoffs. Going to start in less than a month. Your playoff run in the semis. So just 2 wins away from that first championship. Basketball, praying for you, just like my team. But let's talk about fantasy basketball real quick. Not going to touch on it too much this week because it's still week 11. Nothing's changed besides scores. I got the lead over Matt right now. We did have a couple games last night. Now we're getting back to that full slate schedule. I got the lead over Matt. Kurt's got the lead over Justin. Paul's got the lead over Josh. Blake's got the lead over Sam. All 4 of these very close matchups. Larry already won over Jack. And Kyle's probably got Justin Kieffer beat 100. Yeah, so I think if you're Justin Kieffer, if you're me, you're definitely scoreboard watching. You wanna make it to the next week. Obviously, you need Paul to lose, who's only up 11 over Josh, and then you need Justin Hill to lose, who's getting beat, almost by 100 to Kurt. So Kurt, has to win. Kurt needs to win. If he loses, he's out. Justin Kieffer can lose and still get help. So that's why he's scoreboard watching. I need to have help to survive tonight because I'm 3-7. The fact that I'm still even in the conversation is a little insane. But, teams like, Matt can't let up on the gas pedal. He's got to go out and get a win over me this week to really solidify that playoff spot because there's a chance there's a chance Justin Hill and Paul could still win this week. So, and then you're looking at, Matt's and, might miss the playoffs. And that would be shocking because he plays Paul next week. So that's a huge game. It should be huge if Justin Kieffer could beat Kyle, but it doesn't look good because he has Jack around the corner. Then week 12, and then there's still the the race for the buys. Kyle 8-2 outside the buy because 3-way head-to-head to Larry and Blake right now. We'll see if Blake and Larry can hang strong. Sam not looking good. I mean, he's right there against Blake. He's got a chance this weekend. 70 points back. But we'll see what Blake does. We'll see what Sam does. I think there's a good chance that all Blake, Larry, and Kyle could all win out and all be 10-2, and then Kyle's 3 seed. What a dangerous 3 seed, like Justin said in the conversation. But it's race for the 6 seed. I think 5 if Matt wants to slip up a little bit against me. But I think it's in my eyes, it's the race for the 6 seed, and it's the race for the buys. Sam and Matt are, I think, just destined to be playing in the semifinals, which will be great semifinals. But that's really it for fantasy basketball. I don't really want to touch on it too much this week because it's still week 11, but we'll get into it. It's the final week of the regular season next week. We'll really get into it next week. But that's it for fantasy basketball. Week 11, week 12, final week of the regular season around the corner next week. Only 53 days into that champion's crown, but I want to talk about ESPN Tournament Challenge. So I am going around with messages now asking people if you want to be, and if anybody wants to play in the ESPN Tournament Challenge, just let me know. Anybody's welcome. We're trying to get 100 people. That's the goal. 100 people right now. I think I got about 30 committed on this Thursday morning. So we'll see how it goes. As you see over here, that is last year's Tournament Challenge results. Matt is the defending champ. He took home, there was 36 people, 360 pot. He took home it all. This year, we do have prizes for first, second, and third. 70% of the pot goes to first, 20% goes to second, and 10% goes to third. Matt won it all. He had Virginia, got the pick right. His college buddy, Rob Armstrong, made the podcast. Can we just talk about that? He's on the screen. Rob Armstrong came in second, had Virginia. It's kind of like Rob was kind of like eliminated before. Another Clarkson guy, David Ferris, was really Matt's only threat at the end there. But hats off to Zach Lovell. Chuka and Brian Joseph, Jeremy Frenberg's friend. Hats off to them. They played well as well. I can't really remember how it went down, but I remember Rob was eliminated before the Final Four because Matt also had Virginia. Just remember that. Don't remember how it really went down, but you see the results there. A couple of the Jerry 1 guys, we'll try to get a couple more Jerry 1 guys up in the top 5. Only one made it, and that was Matt who won it. It's good to see that. Root for you, Jerry 1 guys. Even though this is a Jerry 1 tournament challenge, so everyone is technically in Jerry 1 right now in this tournament challenge. But the Jerry 1 Fantasy League guys, rooting for them. It should be fun. It starts next Thursday, pretty close to a week from now at noon, whenever that tournament starts. That's when the brackets lock. We got some interesting people in it. Gonna see who else we can get. It's gonna be fun. I think everyone should come out and play the game, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good 3 weeks. It's gonna be some good money. It's gonna be better money for the first than you'll see in any of these fantasy leagues. So this is where the money is. So go out and one bracket per person. Go out and put a good bracket in this group. You probably got a bunch of groups, but this is a good group to win right here. So top 3, you can get some decent money. So, and if you're tied for top 3, you still will get some money. You split it. So that's it for the ESPN Tournament Challenge. That's it for the podcast. That's episode 22. So final week of hockey, final week of basketball for the regular season's coming around the corner next week. And I wish everyone the best of luck going forward. Playoffs, I'm excited to see what's in store. But I want to thank Justin Kieffer for coming on today's podcast. Thank you, Justin, for coming on. I wish the best of luck for both of your teams going forward. And you got a bright future here in Jerry 1. So thank you, Justin, for coming on. I've been Nick Felice. Set your lineup, and we'll see you on the next Jerry 1 Fantasy Sports Podcast. Enjoy this warm weather if you're out here on the East Coast. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.